Hello! Today we're going to be checking out Contra Operation Galuga. It is described as a reimagining of the classic run-and-gun action game from the 80s, featuring modern graphics and sound design with new stages, enemies, bosses, mechanics, and more. The game is developed by WayForward and being published by Konami. You can play the game solo or up to 4-player local co-op. Steam Remote Play is also accepted. Full disclosure, checking out is a first impression series where I play the game as much as I deem fit or until I get my opinions situated. In this case, I played through the story 3 times and tried all other game modes, which I'll touch on in a bit. Now, I was graciously sent a review copy of the game, however with that in mind, it will not alter my opinions on the title. Before we kick off, I will mention the developers themselves recommend playing with a controller. You can play with a keyboard and mouse if that's all you got, however it will play and feel way better with a controller of your choice. Starting with the options menu, there isn't all that much here, which is to be expected. However, the one problem you may notice right away is there is no display option. That means there's no windowed or full screen allowed here. The game defaults with borderless, which is okay, but not preferred, especially when it allows your mouse cursor to be on screen at all times. Very annoying. You're given the option to change your aim style. You can go back to 8-directional aiming if you prefer that classic feel over the smoother 360 analog. I thought this was a very nice addition. Moving on to the control configuration, it's extremely simple, and to be fair, Contra is an easy to learn, hard to master type of game, so even with these few binds, it can still be quite challenging. The one complaint I have here is there are no movement binds whatsoever. If you're using a controller, aim and movement is locked to only your left stick. I would have liked a modern option to have movement on the left, aiming on the right, but I understand that is not the appeal here. That being said, keyboard users can use WASD or the arrow keys, however looking at the default binds explains why. It's not unplayable with these defaults and you can get adjusted fairly quickly, but you are locked to the 8-directional aiming. So I recommend playing with a controller regardless for your own sanity. How to play gives you base descriptions of the core mechanics. You're also verbally and visually provided these in the first chapter of the story, so it's only here for a reminder or if you skipped through it. I also just noticed there is no metallic snap or clicking noise when the top metal connects with the bottom. This is a missed opportunity. Language is what you'd expect, and stock lives on boosted over default allows you to have more than 3 lives once they're unlocked. Now before we hop into the actual gameplay, you'll notice there is a perk shop. This is where you can spend your earned credits, obtained from just playing the game and completing stages. Most of these are extremely helpful. They can include characters, invulnerability frames, starting a run with your favorite weapon, or even upgrading the amount of health or lives you start out with. If you've noticed this times 30, yes, the Konami code is included. You can get your 30 lives if entered correctly on boot up, however instead of providing you the 30 lives up front, we now have to work for it. I'll touch more into that soon, but you can also obtain different 8-bit themed background tracks from various titles, including the wonderful Castlevania. I've not unlocked them yet, so I can't say much on them. Anyway, I'm sure you've waited long enough to see some gameplay, so let's move into the arcade mode, which I'll be playing for the remainder of this video as it avoids story spoilers. However, it will include map spoilers as it's the exact same thing without the lore attached. There is your warning. So with that, we'll start a new game to quickly show you there are only 3 difficulties: normal, hard, and easy, all with additional danger levels. Health meter is your generic playthrough with hit points, and one hit kill does exactly what you'd think. You are now able to select your character. You start off with only Bill Rizzler and Lance Bean, the 2 classics. However, you can unlock more characters by completing the story or purchasing the extras from the perk shop. Speaking of perks, this is where you can also equip them prior to playing. You can only have up to 2 equipped at a time. Now the overall gameplay can be quickly explained as the classical run and gun, which is exactly what they want it to be, and they obviously do an incredible job at. Actually, going back to the difficulty options real quick, I did forget to mention whichever difficulty you choose will most likely determine how many enemies you'll be facing at any given time, and their accuracy on you. I would highly recommend playing through on normal for your first run as it provides a fair challenge in the later levels. Hard can honestly be a bit much at times, and easy is just that. Now, most of the map layouts are well made, especially visually. Some have easier, less obvious paths than others, but you'll learn those as you naturally play. You'll also rarely get lost, as most of the time you'll be headed east. There are a few times you'll have to go vertically or even west, but the majority of your time is spent trying to survive and progress forward. You may have noticed while I was rambling, I shot a flying orb thing and picked up its dropped letter, which provided me a new weapon type, each letter being a different styled gun. This is where the gameplay starts becoming complex, because you can carry 2 weapons alongside swap between them at any given time. Picking up the same weapon type you're already carrying will upgrade that weapon to level 2, providing more damage and style points. Each weapon also has its own unique ability you can use by overcharging them. This will get rid of a level or your weapon entirely, but provide you with a nice offensive or defensive ability to help you in battle for a timed duration. These take time to learn, but once you understand how each weapon works, it's game changing. Also, depending on the character you play, some of the weapons will behave entirely differently. This makes each character unique and with their own play style, so it's absolutely worth trying them all to figure out what you prefer. The weapon balancing here is pretty fair. As you'd expect and hope for an arcade game, you obviously got a few weapons more powerful than others in most situations, but it honestly comes down to what you're given and how you use them. Now, the way respawning works is a big step in the modern direction. If you faint prior or at the first mini-boss, you will be respawned back at the start of the stage. However, if you defeat the mini-boss, it will now count as your halfway mark, placing you right after it. The second boss you face will be that chapter's final one. Some stages go on a lot longer than others, so I'd recommend trying your best to not faint. And honestly, don't stand still, as while you're stationary within battle, enemies will be constantly spawning around you, so just be careful. The classic style of this would be slapping at the start of the game entirely instead of the chapter when you faint, so this is a nice addition to the madness, though the option is sorta there for those who prefer the painful one-hit way. If you happen to leave a mission at any point, you will be reset to the beginning of the stage. As much as I love the pain of older games being unforgiving to the player mistakes, I think this is a wonderful addition altogether, which allows new and casual players alike to enjoy Contra's nostalgic background. Speaking of the boss fights, mini and major bosses are all fairly unique and pristine. They remastered a few of the original NES bosses, which I recognized quite quickly. That nostalgia hit me hard. I loved all the new additions provided to them as well. Some of the later boss fights are way more difficult than others, but that's typically how you would want boss fights to be. They all felt incredible to beat in their own right, and I have currently nothing negative to say about them. Now I'm going to touch on challenge mode very briefly, as I haven't completed much of it. The reason for this is it's honestly just extremely difficult. Hence the name, it puts you with extremely specific challenges you need to finish at par time, or at the very least, very close to it. Most of the challenges unlock when completing the story mode, while the others are obtained by completing the challenges themselves, or unlocking the extra characters. There is a fair variety of challenges, but for the most part you can expect to reach the goal or end of the stage with or under par time, without ever taking a single hit of damage. My favorite challenge out of the bunch is called Rematch, where you have to defeat one of the selected bosses on time without taking damage, fainting, and sometimes under very limited ammo. Unique, fun, and sometimes extremely frustrating challenges all around. However, moving into the story mode, I won't be spoiling any of the detailed lore here, so don't you worry. I'll leave that to my other series. Staying positive, I will say the dialogue is voice acted, which made paying attention to the story super easy and engaging. There are a few cheesy lines, but they weren't enough to ruin my immersion. The storytelling itself is very well covered, and I much enjoyed the pacing of it. They did a great job introducing new characters and putting the lore behind them. It was slow enough to understand what's happening, and fast enough to get you into the next lore piece. While you progress the story and unlock the additional playable characters, switching to them in future or previous chapters will unlock their own unique dialogue and storytelling. All with the same outcome sadly, but this allows for slight story replayability. I thought it was nice understanding their personalities on a deeper level. That all being said, there are a few things I wasn't a big fan of. If you wish to play through the story on a different difficulty, you must create a new save entirely. This is fine, however some of the cutscenes can be skipped while others cannot. This makes second playthroughs or even replaying previous chapters a bit tedious. Some stages and fights on higher difficulties have so much happening. It will become an unfun bullet hell where you'll constantly get hit left and right by things you won't ever see. This is most likely a skill issue on my part, but I still completed the game on hard, which is applaudable for someone who hasn't played any run and gun games in years, eh? Honestly, the biggest issue I have with the entire game right now is when playing on PC, your mouse cursor doesn't vanish. It just stays on screen until you slap it to another monitor or as far off the screen as possible. Obviously, because of display options not existing, it's not game changing, so I guess it's okay. Whatever. As for my achievement hunters, there are currently 41 achievements, all of which I'll say now are incredibly well done. You have your basic ones tied to story and game completion. Follow that up with extra achievements for completing all stages and bosses without fainting once. You can even follow the follow-up with very few being tied to never getting hit once. My favorite achievement obtained so far is being awarded for remembering the Konami code from my childhood. We truly need more of these fun and secretive achievements in general gaming. One of the hardest achievements in-game currently is to purchase everything from the perk shop. This one comes down to how much time you're willing to commit to playing. Most single stages won't provide enough credits to purchase even half of one perk, so no matter what, you'll need to grind this one out. I personally don't think the grind will be that difficult, however I've not really started it yet. I will be going for 100%, so you can expect to see a full completionist review on this channel sometime in the future. I'll pin a comment below whenever it's out. In conclusion, I really enjoyed this modern version of Contra as it let me relive my once favorite childhood game without all the extra hassle, while still providing a tough challenge. Check it out for yourself if I've shown or explained anything today that piqued your interest. Contra Operation Galuga, available for 50 doll hairs or your regional equivalent on the Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch storefront. While it does offer a bit, including 3D elements, the price is its weakest point if compared to most of its competition. Picking it up on a sale wouldn't hurt, and I'm sure you'll get your fun out of it regardless. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. Let me know your thoughts down below, or what game I should check out next. Subscribe so you never miss a video, and until next time, take care.